There are a lot of movies and books written about heaven. And they try to answer and speculate about many different things. But I've never read what people thought heaven must smell like. That's right, smell. It's a sense. We usually all have a sense of smell. What does it smell like? To some people it might be like a fresh spring morning after a rain. And the grass smells great, the flowers. Some it might be their rose garden. To other people, it might be the leaves on an autumn day as they're raking the leaves, something like that. Well, for me, if someone asked me what I thought heaven will smell like, I'll say a bakery. Yeah, a bakery. You walk in there, you smell all those homemade muffins and pies, and most of all, fresh homemade bread. And today's gospel reading, Jesus says the kingdom of heaven is the yeast that a woman took and mixed with 3 measures of wheat flour. She took yeast and measured in the flour. Well, how many people here have ever made bread from scratch? Anybody raise your hands? Very good. Okay, then you'll understand this. Once you get the big lump of dough and all your ingredients together, you have to add the yeast, right? You have to add the yeast. Now today, of course, you go to the store and buy a packet of yeast. And you put it in. Well, in Jesus' day, they had yeast as well, but it didn't come in little packets. Just to let you know, this is how they got their yeast. They took some flour and water, mushed it into a little ball, put it in a jar, put a cap on the jar, stuck it in a very dark place where the sun wouldn't shine on it, came back a week later, opened it up. Now it smelled real bad, and it was covered with green mold. The green mold is yeast. Try that at home, but beware, it attracts ants. That's yeast mold. They used to take the yeast mold and sprinkle it in the dough because they knew that's what made the dough rise. It's yeast. We process it now, but it is the same thing. Well, here's the thing about measuring. This is what we call kneading, right? That's where we knead the dough. We knead in all of the yeast. And it's a lot of work. And you have to make sure that you get that yeast all through the dough. If it's all lumped up on one side, your loaf is going to come out looking very strange. One part flat and raw, and the other part all puffed up. So you got to work. It's the hardest part of making homemade bread is the kneading. Because you're never really sure if you've got it all the way through. You just keep trying and trying until you just think, well, it's got to be all the way through the loaf. And now it's ready to put in the oven. Well, let's look at this tiny little parable and think of ourselves as the big lumps of dough. Now, of course, some of us probably say, yes, I know, I'm working on it, I'm cutting on my calories, and yes, I'm along, I understand that, I'm along with that, I'm in that boat too. But that's not what I mean. What I mean is, let us consider ourselves like the dough. And God's grace is the yeast. And God is sprinkling that yeast in our lives. But it's up to us to do the kneading. We have to knead it. We have to take an honest look at our lives and see what areas where we really need more of the grace of God. For example, we may suffer from impatience. And we may need the gift of patience. And so we have to take time out to make sure that grace of God is being kneaded in to our need for patience. Although maybe, for example, we suffer from the sin of sloth. We just get up, we turn on the TV, we stare at it for hours, time flies by, nothing gets done. Well, that's a good time to think about that. Maybe we need the grace of God inside of that area of our life to give us more pep and energy to do what has to be done. Maybe we need to be kinder. So we have to knead in the grace of God into that area. That is what we do in our lives through our words and actions. We're kneading in the grace into our lives. We do the kneading because we need it. And when we get that kneaded in, then our lives will rise like that bread, only better than the bread, because it will rise all the way to heaven.